we are.
We are live. We're
Woo!
back.
Yay!
It's our very first broadcast of 2014. We're a bit behind. We haven't done anything since November.
I know, it's insane.
Crazy. That's a long time for
It
us not
is.
to do something.
It's hard. I'm a little antsy.
It's a wee bit. Yeah. I think you get out of the groove and it's difficult to get back in. So.
Yeah. It's easy to fill your time with other things, but
Yeah. No kidding. Totally. But we decided our first show back was going to be about Star Trek Into Darkness. So I watched that again last night.
Ditto.
You did? Okay, good. And I had taken notes for when we were going to do this back in like January or December.
Something like that.
When my laptop decided to die.
Yeah, January, I think. Yeah.
So it was kind of funny to look at my notes from back then and just make sure it was all still accurate.
I was doing the same thing. I was like, oh, point form. What was I meaning? Oh yes. Okay, check.
So, what is your overall sort of general opinion of Star Trek Into Darkness?
Loved it.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I really did. I loved it unapologetically. I really enjoyed it. Not to say that I didn't, find flaws or faults or anything like that, because there were one or two things where I felt like it could have been improved upon. But the overall package, I really enjoyed. It met all the high notes for me.
Okay.
How about you?
I had kind of mixed emotions about it. I love the cast, so it's difficult not to like the movie.
Yes.
But there were parts of it that kind of bugged me, and like the cold fusion bit really bothered me a lot. Just because, like, there's always been such strong ties between Star Trek and actual science, and to start making it more fantasy and to fly that far off the rails on something that's basic scientific principles kind of threw me a little bit, and that was right at the beginning. Do you know what I mean? So, but I still enjoyed the performances and the jokes, and there were a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, the cast chemistry is so fantastic. Like, casting director, honestly, I'm terrible with names, and I don't know who you are, but whoever was the casting director for Star Trek, this new franchise, was just phenomenal. They
Brilliant.
Had a really great vision and obviously access to resources that they needed, because that is just, it really does. And you can take any material and make it wonderful with cast chemistry like that. I mean, that is the thing that really drives the pleasure of watching that movie to me.
Because you can throw a bunch of really great actors, and I'm gonna look something up because I'm
I love it when you break out your evil laugh. Mine is an evil laugh.
Because you can throw together really great actors and still not have the right chemistry to pull something off.
And in all fairness, you can have really excellent actors and really material, and it will be, because there's only so much really excellent actors can do in the core. But I'm sorry, Hilary Swank, Aaron Eckhart, and Stanley Tucci, who I always forget his name, even though I love him to death.
I like him too.
No one could save that movie. That was so horrendous.
It was pretty bad.
Epically bad. Not helped along by the failure in the science department. So I understand why the fusion thing drove you so crazy. It really didn't bother me that much, because I know that Star Trek is science fiction, and so even if some of the science is based in theories that could bear out, teleportation is no closer to reality than cold fusion at this stage. So,
but cold fusion freezing things.
Yeah. But our society still thinks that harsh chemicals is a terrible word to say, and they misuse it brutally. So misusing cold fusion doesn't irk me the same way. And probably it should, given my own scientific background, but it didn't really get under my skin.
Where is this piece of crap? I can't.
Well, James is doing research for a musical interlude.
I am at a loss to find this.
What are you looking for?
Doo-doo movie. There's a movie with see, and that's one of the reasons I have to look things up. It's a medieval type movie. Son of a monkey.
Anything?
I can't, but I have a really good point. Damn it. I do.
Uh-huh.
Oh. Did you see The Italian Job?
Yes.
Who's the really good-looking guy?
Like
Beautiful Rob or whatever.
Oh, wasn't that Statham?
Okay, yeah, that's what I'll look at. Maybe I'll look at it because I cannot find this movie.
Sorry, I enjoyed that movie, but none of them stood out to me. It was like, oh my God, fabulous looking, but I have weird taste, perhaps.
So the Handsome Rob, that's what they called him.
Yeah, I believe that was.
Yeah, and that's why I remembered it that way, because it was like something about him being pretty. Right. What's his name? And he's cute, but I don't think he's that cute. I don't think he's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call him pretty.
Oh, In the Name of the King.
Okay.
Is the name of the movie. And yeah, it was. His name was Farmer in that, and it's 2007. Finally found it. Jeepers creepers. And they have really great people in there. They've got John Rhys Davies, Ron Perlman, and they have Matthew Lillard, who's a riot.
He is funny.
And I think what probably maybe threw it off for me was Ray Liotta in a
okay.
In a period piece, whether it be fantasy or not. Like, he belongs here. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I can't place him in medieval Europe.
No, but in all fairness,
at all,
the cast that you just listed, I don't see a lot of them in period.
Yeah, it was sort of funny. And it's great people, but the movie was just like
horrendous.
Out, make it stop. Yeah.
Noted.
So, and I love me some Ron Perlman. I don't care what he's in. I can watch him.
It's true.
Whatever.
On your recommendation, I followed him on Twitter, and he is funny.
He is very funny.
Yeah.
He really he's a good guy. And he's very interactive with his Twitter people.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, point totally got lost in there somewhere, but yeah, it's a good cast, so I was able to get past some of the stuff that is sort of.
Well, what were the highlights for you?
The Klingons.
Nice. Yeah.
For the whole 30 seconds they were on screen.
No, it's true. There was a lot of attention to detail for that, and they were great.
They were very gritty, and not that I want to downplay Star Trek Next Generation's Klingons or anything, but these guys were much more
raw. Yes,
they were very gritty and believably dark.
Yes,
and just the whole look that they had was much more menacing.
Yes, and you could see the cultural differences.
Yes,
they weren't glossy. There was no, these were definitely not part of the Federation, and it's good to see that the portrayal of the Federation at its baby stages still shows those big cultural differences, kind of thing. For all that everyone's humanoid, right?
Exactly.
I really liked the Klingons too.
So yeah, that was something that definitely worked for me. What was the other thing? Oh, I thought it was funny when Uhura and Kirk were in the lift,
Oh, yes.
and she says that, like, he's like, "Are you guys fighting? What is that even like?"
I
That
love, I know. And when she's just sort of grudgingly like, it's not just you.
Yeah. Because those kinds of conversations have to take place on a crew. It's
Exactly.
not
How species
as
dating is going to be complicated. I mean, let's be honest.
well,
Interactions are complicated already.
right. And in the original Star Trek, in the Star Trek movies, while their relationships are established as really good friends, there's not a lot of intimacy other than scenes of death.
Yes, sure.
So that shows, sort of a shoulder to shoulder, we're in the trenches together sort of reality
A little more
and
emotional
discussion.
depth. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I really like that because it showed more to their friendships, and that they've been through something and bonded, that they feel like they can, chat.
Yeah.
And we get to see a little bit of that rather than cleaning it up and making it all of these, heroic moments.
I think it
Not that
really
there's
takes
anything
you into the
wrong.
story
I
a bit
mean,
more. You're
yeah,
more invested in the people and you're more invested in the story and in what happens to them when you do get a little bit of those moments.
right. Exactly. And I mean, I love the original movies, with, the exception of the glass of tar coming to destroy us all over a couple of whales, or the one, or the one about Spock's brother that shall remain nameless. Um, Other than those two, I thoroughly enjoy all those movies, and I liked the original show. It's just I really felt like that made us all, that was like a little, like, including us in a group hug.
Yes. Yeah. And I think like as we got through the different permutations of Star Trek's on TV, from the original series to Next Generation to, Voyager and Deep Space Nine and even into oh, why am I failing on the last one? Oh my God, the prequel.
Oh, Shaw.
Right? But you did start to see some of those relationships develop with a little bit more emotional intimacy. And I think that that's sort of a product of the timeline and also of the inclusion of, to some degree or another, of the female audience in the planning stages.
True.
In trying to get a more broad spectrum audience on the board with Star Trek. So you can see that kind of develop throughout the series. So it's nice to have the grittiness of the idea of the original series with some of the emotional depth that was brought on board a little bit later
Right.
in the development of the show. So I don't know, I like that. I really love the fact that, to me, aside from it being Star Trek, and I've been watching Star Trek almost as long as I've been watching Doctor Who. Um, that this movie really, to me, crossed boundaries in terms of accessibility. Even the first one as well, but I feel like this continued on that pathway of bringing people who are not necessarily Trekkies or Trekkers or however people want to call themselves these days, but people who haven't been inundated with Star Trek their whole lives, people who haven't been typically sci-fi fans or fantasy fans, can get in on board with these movies because they're great movies, not just Star Trek movies. They're action movies. They're fun. They've got great casts. They're very witty. They're well produced. They're beautiful, beautiful filmmaking. Like, for me, one of the biggest hits of this movie was the color saturation. This was pure and utter eye candy. And I mean, yes, beautiful cast, but that's not what I mean. I mean, well, maybe it's a little bit of what I mean. But no, the color, the depth, some of the effects, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination an expert on digital effects or anything like that. So please understand that this is from a purely aesthetic perspective.
Right.
I loved it. I thought it was gorgeous. It was just beautiful. I liked watching every scene because it starts off big and colorful and it just draws you in from there.
Right.
So, people who are like, oh, I don't know Star Trek. I don't know Star Trek from a hole in the ground. I don't watch that shit. I watch reality TV. I don't know. But they can go out to the theater and watch this awesome action movie and be brought in and have that story reach more people. I think that's really interesting.
Yes.
So that worked for me.
What did not work for you?
I didn't find, with the exception of perhaps the relationship between Kirk and Spock, there was not a ton of character development, and there really, really, really was not a lot of female character development. So I know we met Uhura before, and that's fantastic, and she's great, and I love her, and that's awesome. But really, the only other female character of note was Dr. Marcus. And aside from seeing her in her bra and underwear, which was, fabulous fan service that was relatively tasteful, and she's beautiful, there was no development at all. There was, oh, hey, there's Dr. Marcus. Do. Oh, look, her dad's a bad guy. Oh, she thinks she can, maybe manipulate him with her emotional connect. Oh, no, he's a total douche. Doesn't care. Okay. So she has nothing. I mean, they did sort of try and have her as the expert on the torpedoes, but really she didn't know what was in them. And
No.
she had one brief moment of talking the doctor through disarming. Why was he disarming them and not her? I would have liked to see more development. I would have liked to see more strength. I would have liked to see her as an actual character and not a cipher who looks good in bra and underwear. Because I think she could have done it. She could have been that.
I agree.
And so I have to admit, it wasn't like, oh my God, I hate this. This is terrible. But I was quite disappointed.
Okay, so I see. I get that they threw the bra and panties in there for the guys. They did it in the first one, so we got to do it in the second one, But like,
fan service in an action movie is not unusual. Whatever.
Well, I mean, because he already was in bed with a couple of chicks with tails earlier, so I kind of thought they accomplished that. And then I didn't understand why she was stripping down, getting naked with him anyway. Right there.
Well, and that I watched that for that because we talked about that before, but I believe that was when she was getting in the suit to go out to do the torpedo stuff, but why he had to be there, I don't know. But maybe it was an urgency, whatever. That I didn't have a problem with. It was just the overall lack of any depth to her.
So I felt like just having her get naked for the sake of having her get naked was meh.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I don't know.
Could have been better.
Yeah. I'm not saying I have a problem with her, I mean, obviously, Kirk's a handsome guy.
Of course.
He's he's got, great mojo. I think, that's well established over the last, how long has this, Star Trek been around? 60 years?
Oh, exactly. And not to mix metaphors, but I loved the fan service that the ladies got in Thor. Yeah. So, I don't have a problem with that. It could have been done a lot better. And we didn't need her to just be naked. We needed her to be awesome.
Right.
There aren't enough women in the Star Trek universe that we can afford for any of them to not be awesome.
And I really think that, in this day and age, Kirk's, baby mama should be awesome.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry, but he is an attractive guy. He can do better than blah. Yeah. And should do better than blah. And we all deserve better than blah.
Yeah.
So that was a downer for me. That was pretty much the only real downer for me, but it was a not insignificant one.
Okay.
Who was your favorite character?
I have to go with Scotty.
I was gonna say it's not Dr. Marcus.
No, it's not Dr. Marcus. Scotty and Bones have always been my favorites, I think, and not that I don't. I loved Kirk in the show initially, and then the other characters kind of grew on me as I got older because I appreciated their sense of humor more. I guess. And Scotty is, I don't know. I love his sort of
Oh my God.
sarcasm and
And how brilliant was Simon Pegg as cast in that role?
I know, right? Yeah, I really, really, I love the sound of his accent. I know I think that's not his native accent, but I do love listening to him
Oh yeah, he does such a
speak in a
brilliant
Scottish
job.
accent. Of course,
Yeah,
I love listening to almost any guy speak in a Scottish accent.
it's
Yeah,
that's true. That's a good point. But
yeah,
still, he does a great job,
he does.
and he
It's
delivers his
very good
lines
job.
with just the right amount of attitude. He's so funny. Yeah, I do love Scotty. I'm not gonna lie. He's my number two, actually.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's your number one?
Well, okay, so I had to do this I couldn't narrow it down too far, so I went with three. So my number three is actually a tie between Ahura and Bones
Okay.
because they're both so funny in understated ways, but in different ways, you know?
Hmm.
Like I love Uhura because she just, especially when she's putting Kirk in his place, both from the first movie and the second one, just she doesn't let him get away with anything,
No.
especially and now that like he's the captain and he needs that, and she's awesome at it, and she does it in a way that's not disrespectful, but just lets him know, no, there's that line again. Oh yeah, no, there it is again. Oh, oh yeah, that line, yeah, there it is again. You know, I love that about him.
That boundary, you're crossing it.
Yeah, and Bones makes me laugh every time he comes on screen. Seriously, I love that guy. I love that he's afraid of heights. I love that he's afraid of space. I love.
I giggled until I almost like hurt something when he called Spock a green-blooded hobgoblin in the
What?
first one.
Oh my
I
God. I
couldn't
thought I was going to
stop.
die. He's amazing, and he just has the excellent delivery. And I don't know. Typically, what's his dude? Actor name. Why? I love him. Why is his name escaping me?
Quinto?
No, Bones.
Fine. Oh, Carl Urban?
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Carl Urban. He's he's such a badass. He always plays a good badass. You know, he's very strong. He's very masculine. He's very, and
Yes.
then for him to play the Bones and be kind of like, yeah, I don't know, and like just I love that. I love that he plays it so well and so convincingly. That makes me really happy. And so every time he comes on screen, it just makes me happy. And then, of course, Scotty, as we've already discussed, not only is he super funny and not only does he have that awesome accent, and I loved that in the second movie he was the integrity,
Yes.
you know? And then he stuck to his guns and he was bitter and annoyed that it got to that.
He
But
got to give Captain Kirk the bird, which, as much as we
awesome.
love Captain Kirk, everybody every once in a while wants to give the
Wants to give him
bird.
the word. Exactly. So everything about that I loved. I loved that he represented integrity in that movie. But
James
definitely,
Tiberius perfect hair when he goes.
yeah.
Then he's like, I called him perfect hair. That's so funny.
Oh, potentially one of the better scenes in the movie. Maybe even top five. So good. But
Commiserating with his alien from the ice planet that is in the bar.
I know, I love it, and
Yeah.
he just follows him around. My favorite character though is definitely Spock. I
Spock's
love
a great
Spock.
character.
He's great. I love him. I love their relationship. I love the casting choice for him. I love how well he pulls that off. I love that he's gone from Siler to Spock.
Yeah.
Yay! Like I did when they first announced that as a casting choice before the first movie, I was like, oh God in heaven, I don't know if I can watch this. Like I've always liked
Because
Spock.
Siler from Heroes was just pure,
Oh
unadulterated evil.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he pulled it off.
Very well.
Oh man, did he pull that off.
Do you follow Zachary on the Twitter?
I do not. I probably should.
You
But
should. He doesn't tweet a whole lot. He tweets I think more when he's traveling. He was showing pictures of like a bed with pillows, big pile of pillows on it last night.
nice.
But he does like pictures of his friends and stuff. He doesn't do a whole lot of like marketing type
Neat.
tweets, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So
I don't actually follow a lot of celebrities. I have started to follow a few based on your recommendations, but I don't. That's not what I use Twitter for. So
I will say I do it in a list. I use Twitter for chatty people.
yeah,
I like chatting with the people.
I like interacting with
But
folks. Yeah. cool.
I think it's fun sometimes just to kind of watch some of these people, and I don't actually like technically follow them because the celebrity people will clog up your timeline with all kinds of ridiculousness. So I
Mhm.
actually I put them in a list, and then that's like just kind of off to the side, and I go and check it just because it's
That's a
fun
good idea.
sometimes when when Twitter slows down and it's just kind of quiet because I use TweetDeck.
Uh,
And when it slows down, it's kind of quiet. The celebrities are all still going usually. So
I have to admit, I've been enjoying following a few of the Agents of Shield. The
okay,
the actors Clark Gregg, so fun.
he is fun.
And actually Chloe Bennett and what's her name? She goes by Lil Henstridge or whatever. Um, she is the is it Fitz or Simmons?
Oh, okay.
Super funny on Twitter. I really enjoy them. So I followed a few of them of late, which I've been enjoying. And Clark Gregg is hysterical when he's live tweeting the show. So
Yeah, yeah. He's good fun.
yeah, I enjoy him. So anyway,
And I didn't realize he was married to Don't Put Baby in a Corner. Um,
really?
yeah,
Ha!
yeah,
Who knew?
uh, yeah. He's married to Baby from time whatever. What I am bad with that movie as I'm not a fan.
Dirty
Shit.
Dancing.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
I am not a failure of a girl.
Get to keep your girl card.
Yay!
Yeah, he's married to her, which I thought was
Awesome.
kind of a cute couple.
Awesome. How, oh God, how he must have to resist saying things like, don't put baby in a corner. Oh, I wonder if they have kids and if they use a corner for timeout. Oh my God. Seriously. Oh
Oh
God. The
man,
potential for really terrible humor is so endless.
it really is. I know.
Um,
Okay, so let's go back to so two things.
I love it when you start
Um,
laughing before you tell me.
two things when Scotty quits and they
Yes.
make Chekhov the head engineer,
Oh, he's
and
so cute.
I know, and Kirk's like, go put on a red shirt. I was like, no,
I
don't you put a
know.
red shirt
Oh
on
my
him.
God. Oh my God. I know. I have an ensign red shirt kind of shirt, and whenever I wear it, I fear for my life. But I do tend to pretend that I'm the head engineer.
I've seen you wear that on Twitter. You've shared pictures. It's very
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah.
Um, that sounds like something I would do. Um, I just adore him. I think he's really cute, and I
Me
like.
too.
I don't think we saw as much of him as I would have liked. Like I really liked the interaction in the first one between Bones and Chekhov, and how he was like, "How old are you?"
Yeah.
Oh, good, he's 17. Just,
I really love Chekhov trying to use the voice commands.
oh yeah, trying to get out Victor with the
Ah,
as Indiana Jones would put it, the way you're sinking your teeth into those wibble use. Yeah.
yeah. Victor, Victor. That's just me, and I love it.
Oh man. So I wish we could have gotten more of Chekhov because he's fun.
Yeah,
But the other thing, because we know I'm a fan of the villains, so
indeed.
I have to bring up the villains. And Mr.
Well, and such an
Benedict
excellent villain,
Cumberbatch, I love that man in some short hair.
right?
Not that
Okay,
he
you could
looks.
have just ended it with "I love that man."
That's true. Not that he looks bad in the long curly hair in Sherlock, but when they cleaned him up, made that nice short tight cut, just
Huh?
he's yummy. I did not necessarily though buy the tears when he was in jail and he was
Mm.
talking about his family. I'm like, yeah, and they're trying to make it. And I don't know if the tears were there for the sake of Kirk, and I guess if that's the case, I guess I buy it.
Yeah,
But it seemed like the way that they were telling the story that he wanted everybody to believe he was, that he was emotional over, possibly losing his family, but he knew he didn't lose his family because he knew his family were in the torpedoes on board.
Exactly.
So the crying thing kind of, I went.
But I think potentially, I mean, I don't know, but because he did know his family was there, he was faking the crying, so it was maybe supposed to not be 100%.
It was, yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean. But I
He's,
did love him as evil. Wow.
I felt really badly for Kirk because I think really the first movie was Captain Kirk just having his handed to him one fight after another. It was just,
you gotta give him points for perseverance, though.
you could have called Star Trek handed to him, because it was just one fight after another where he just, which is so contrary really to the original story where Captain Kirk, played by William Shatner, never loses a fight. I mean, he was, just very the man, and so they never would have put him in a light where he was just, really losing.
Yeah.
And he lost like 3 fights in a row in that movie, and then to have him like really feel like I'm gonna get some justice, and he punches Benedict Cumberbatch. She's like, oh yeah, okay, you want to do this again? Like,
I love it. Are you going to keep punching me until you break your hand?
Yeah. till your arm weakens. Yeah, I was like, oh.
Yeah. But I do like this version of Kirk better, actually. I find him more approachable, I appealing, and I think part of that is because he is flawed and he's allowed to be flawed.
Right.
Not that I don't love the Shat. I'm Canadian. It's kind of a requirement. But and of course, the caveat being, it's the timing too, right? Like the original series was produced and written in a time where that was expected and that was normal and that was something that people would relate to.
Heroes were heroes and they were perfect.
Yeah. Exactly. That does not appeal to me. I was much more a Picard fan than a Kirk fan.
Mm-hmm.
But this Kirk I like.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I don't get me wrong, I love the Shat. I think just part of it's just his performance, and
yes.
I watched Star Trek the movie the other day, and I was just laughing because he's such a pompous man, and it's just funny.
But he does it like nobody's business.
Does it so well. Yeah, he does.
No, he does. He's so good at it.
And I like the fact that that the Admiral is talking to Kirk, and he tells him in this one that was an epic beating. You had napkins hanging out of your nose, like,
yeah. Just, I didn't lose. Yeah, you did. Oh.
But and I also love me some Ricardo Montalban in the rubber chest plate. I do. I love me some Ricardo Montalban. I adore him in everything he's ever been in. Back to the black and white movies, and just I think he's adorable, and I loved him with that 80s hair and the rubber chest plates that didn't match his neck, so it was like his neck's all wrinkly because he's older, but they didn't want to show that in his chest because they were obviously he's supposed to be not aging the same way, so they covered his chest. And there are so many things like that make me love Star Trek. Like I think it was the last one that the Shat did, and he turns around to go walk up like the ramp next to his chair. Why can't I think of where that is? Yeah. Anyway, in like the cockpit area, whatever that is. Yes, the bridge. Thank you.
No problem.
I haven't had all of this yet.
I know. I
just
started my coffee. It's awful.
He was so upset apparently with how big his rear end looked in that scene walking up the ramp, that he wanted to reshoot it, but it would have been too expensive, so they had to digitally shave to make it smaller. I love things like that.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
So I love watching Ricardo's. I know. So, could you imagine having that job? Guess what I did today, honey?
Wow.
But I love watching that movie, and I cannot take my eyes off of Ricardo. Is a handsome man, of course, but rubber chest plate just draws my eyes.
And how could it not, really?
I know.
It's like the codpiece in the labyrinth.
I know. Well, there's some debate over that.
Of course there is.
It's a very clear outline in some of those shots. I don't know. Anyway.
How many times have you watched that movie with a pause?
I have not paused it once, I will say, but watching it with younger people going, oh my God.
Right? Yeah. I swear to God he was high the entire time that movie was filmed.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Those songs! Okay, well, that's a whole nother... Well,
yeah, it's true. Another day. Another day, another dollar.
So, anyway, I really like Benedict in this, and I think, I was happy to see him on the big screen, because we don't... I don't get to see a lot of that. I know he's done some movies I haven't seen. So I was happy to see him on the big screen, and I feel kind of bad for the prank they pulled on him, because he bought that hook, line, and sinker about the cream, because they were working in like, I don't know if it was a nuclear sub or something, but they made him wear, I think it was called neutrino cream or something, as a joke, as protection against radiation, and he totally bought that.
Oh.
I know. Holy lamb. So I feel kind of sorry for them that they're playing pranks on him, but
that's kind of awesome though. I mean,
it is a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, more background lore that just makes these movies so much more fun. So I thought he was pretty great as a villain, and it was good to see him depart from his more sort of gangly Sherlock. He was and I think he said he worked out for this. Yeah. He was a little more structured and built, and
very nice.
The man looked nice, yes, and he sounded good, and yes,
he has got one of the most incredible voices.
He does. It's so deep and resonating, and I buy evil from him on that principle alone.
Right? I know he's a wonderful actor. I think designed physically to be a wonderful actor, because he has that beautiful voice, and he has, a very nice physique that films well, and all those angles on his face, right? Yes. Those cheekbones you could cut your hand slapping.
Gotta quote the woman.
What were your favorite scenes in the movie?
What did I say? Oh, one of the things I said, like, for an instant, and I don't know why, but when they crack open the torpedo to see the human being,
yeah,
I always think for a second, is that Neil Patrick Harris in the torpedo?
Did not see that coming.
Every time I'm like, is that Neil Patrick Harris in the torpedo? Which is, kind of a pregnant statement. But I love that. I don't know who that guy is, but he looks a little bit like Neil Patrick Harris.
That's kind of awesome. I love that made your favorite scenes list. Nice.
I love it, and this is a really benign scene. There's not much to it, but I adore it. Is when Scotty is running through the empty ship. And he's running like, ah! Because he's so tired from running and he's got so much more to go. I love that. It was just so endearing.
Exactly. So very Scotty.
Yeah. Well, and I do things like that. So,
nice.
my workouts are very limited because of my fibro spoony situation.
Yeah.
So anytime I have to do anything like that, I am a big baby.
I have to admit, I was at the gym last night and did kind of an epic workout, and there were a couple of moments where I was with my friend and I was just like, I need a minute. Bah!
So, you know, we got to see some humor in the original movies, but not always a lot of human. And like I said, unless somebody was dying, so it's fun to see those things.
Yeah, that is true. It makes it really appealing. And I think that aids to the whole making it more accessible across the board as well. So
Yeah.
for me, I had a couple of different categories of favorite scene. Obviously.
Okay.
Aesthetically, just purely attractiveness. And no, I'm not going to just say every scene Benedict Cumberbatch was in, although, you know, there's an argument to be made.
Yeah.
No, the escape from Nibiru when they're running, and everything is so saturated and bright and colorful, and it's so intense.
Almost neon.
I loved that when I saw that in theater, and then I watched it again a couple of times, you know, in the small screen, but I always go back to the theater on that one, and just the intensity of the color in that scene, I love it so much. It makes me so happy. So that was one of my top right off the bat. In terms of action scenes, that fight scene on Kronos with the Klingons.
Yes.
Oh, loved it. It was so fast paced and just awesome. And to get to see Benedict Cumberbatch kick a little ass, and he saves Kirk, and then you know, all of that was awesome. I love that. In emotional scenes, my favorite scene was the fight scene on the way to Kronos. You know, between Uhura and Spock with a little Kirk.
Well, I thought that was so funny because he was like, you know, because he says to Spock, you know, I'm gonna miss you, and he kind of sits there with this boyish grin, all cute and waiting for some type of, oh, I'm gonna miss you too. He doesn't get it. He's like, oh, you know, and then he's like, you know, and then she sort of brings him into this argument about, you know, his lack of emotion, which I got, but also was like,
he is
really,
Vulcan.
he's a Vulcan. And then he's like, don't drag me into this, but she's right.
Exactly. And that whole interaction and the byplay between the three of them really made me happy. It was hysterical.
It was good.
So.
It was very good.
Yeah.
Is there anything else I wanted to mention? I love how I put in my notes, can we give Kirk his manhood back?
Oh.
Because he keeps getting his ass handed to him.
You know, but I think the thing that I love about Kirk, especially this iteration of Kirk, is that it doesn't seem to impact his manliness.
No.
You know?
No,
he
but
just went back up and keeps doing it. And I love that. And I think that is really sort of modern, and it maybe is one of the reasons why I'm so disappointed in their female character development, is because they're very good at making Kirk a slightly more modern version of himself.
Yeah, I'd like to see the man win a fight.
Yeah.
I just like to see it happen.
He won the fight with the warp core.
Well, it was very yes, he did. You know, and he's very sort of like lose the battles, win the war, and I get that, but it's just I'd really like to see him not necessarily have his, you know, rear end handed to him on a platter every time he gets into fisticuffs. I don't know.
Fair.
Go
and check.
And you know, to some degree, yes, he does. He needs it, you know. But it's yeah. I liked it when Bones said, "Don't agree with me, Spock." It makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yes, I kind of see Spock and Bones as the angel and the devil on
Kirk's sitting on the shoulders.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And I like that Kirk ordered Bones. He was like, what do you say? Like, no more metaphors. That's an order.
Yes. they were getting excessive.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So, but overall, I really enjoyed. But I enjoyed for the cast, and I really liked bits and pieces, and there are parts that kind of. But I did think it was sort of funny that Mickey, Rose's boyfriend, was the one who blew himself up.
I know.
Do you know how many Doctor Who fans were waiting for that?
Waiting for it. I among them, I'm not going to lie.
Mickey goes boom.
Yeah. Not that Mickey didn't have one or two shining moments, but he just had like 98,000 terrible ones.
He had so much clingy whininess. I don't know that there was enough for him to ever make that up.
No.
Ever.
Not ever.
Ever. So that was sort of a little fun bit there.
Yeah, it definitely was.
So, but that's so overall, I would say if we were ever to assign stars, I would say 4 out of 5. I really like it. It wasn't my absolute favorites because we've kind of talked about this. Like whenever you have a sequel, no matter how good it is, it's still not as sort of shiny as the first. I would have given the first a 5 out of 5. I think so. This is close, maybe 4.5, but not quite. 5 for me.
And I would give it a 4.5 for sure because I thought it was awesome, and I actually there were parts of it that I liked better than the first, and parts that it was not as good as the first. But I really, really, really wanted them to do better with their female characters, and I
know. Well, and I think I remember. What is my problem? Jeez, crackers.
What is even happening here?
Felicia Day.
Pardon?
Felicia Day had tweeted, I think when the movie first came out, she tweeted something about like, where are the 40 and older women that should be having careers in this arena at this point? And we don't see a lot of that. And it's definitely a guy-centric thing. Guys created the movies, and there's some female input, obviously, but not nearly enough, I think.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't think that there's any excuse for that anymore.
I agree. I totally agree. I'm not excusing it by any means, and I feel like we've reached a day and age where, especially considering how far into the future it was, there should have been. I think that really you could have pulled like somebody, a Janeway type character into the main, instead of doing RoboCop, you could have done a Janeway type admiral who was just as evil, and
there could have been some equal representation on that council.
There was nothing, man. We were robbed.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I'm sorry. That was the only thing that really was the drawback for me, but it was a pretty significant drawback.
Yeah, I mean, this is no longer,
this is not the 1960s anymore.
No, and it's not all trench warfare where they're, where people get really like worked up and about that kind of stuff. I mean, we're talking about space. This is equal opportunities for everybody, because this is not, heavy lifting all the time like it once was. And not that I'm, not that I want to get into that whole argument either, but times have changed, and you're thinking far enough into the future where it's really more technical. Everything is more technical, and I'm sorry, but we do tend to excel at that quite a bit. We're really good at the multitask and the crap, so let's get some more of us in there, please.
Yeah, it was a bit sad.
So yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of candy for me to watch in there. I love Carl Urban. I love Benedict Cumberbatch. Chris Pine, not necessarily. I'm not a blonde.
No,
so much,
he's pretty, but
he's pretty. Yeah, but it was okay. But he's funny. Kind of compensates for it a bit. I love.
He's just not gonna make the list.
Yeah. I think like in my crazy brain, like Simon Pegg makes the list before Chris Pine does, because the funny is a huge turn on for me over the pretty sometimes. So, but there was plenty of that, but I did feel sort of like, where are we here? So
Yeah, I don't see myself here. And when you have a plethora of people from different planets, alliteration unintended, you should have already representation from your own planet. Like there should be equal representation from your own planet.
We got a quick shot at the Klingons real quick, but there was not nearly as many fun aliens in this one as there was in the first.
No,
I think.
Exactly.
And maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention, but they were kind of in your face in the first one, and there was very little of that in this one. And that's, I think, one of the things that makes Star Trek so much fun, and Star Wars as well. I think, we love to see different versions of humanoids and all these different aliens and the creativity that goes into that. And I kind of feel like this one maybe dropped the ball a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that had to do with the story they were trying to tell. But yeah, it would have been nice to have a little bit more diversity.
Right.
Across the board. So.
Okay, so I think that about does it. I'm sorry?
4.5 out of 5.
I think 4.5 is good.
Yeah, with the half star out there for Star Trek 3, because here's hoping.
Yeah.
Do us a solid and get some more women in there. Okay. We'll give you that 5 if you manage.
That sounds good to me.
Awesome.
All right. So, we're back, and hopefully we'll be doing more of these now that I have a laptop that is no longer crying every time I do a broadcast.
There's no suspicious smoke.
I know, right?
Where you can perhaps get a little smell-o-vision.
That poor thing, man. Oh, yeah, that poor little laptop. Like I said, it was really designed, like, I bought it just to be, like, basically like a typewriter, and so it wasn't meant to be doing all the things that I started shoving it into. It was very sort of round peg square hole sort of. And yeah, so anyway, we're back. We hope to see you again soon.
Fantastic. See you soon.